So, good morning, everybody. My name is Juliet Davenport, and I'm here with Joe Parker Swift, or as my phone always tells me, Joe Solivus. Joe set up Solivus how many years ago now?
Well, this is the third company I've founded, and I was 2016 came up with the idea while I was still on my earnout for my last company. So although I registered it in 2016, I didn't escape from there and get it going until about 2020.
2020, so about 6 years now.
Yeah.
And I've been working with Joe. So I set up a company called Good Energy many years ago, got involved in the other side of trading solar power, and then have now been working with Joe for a couple of years now, just sort of supporting and helping out and thinking through some of the strategy related to Solivus. So we're here today, Joe, to talk about rooftop solar, what it kind of means in this market today, and what are the opportunities. We are in a very difficult world at the moment. So I think everybody's probably seen the tragic situation in Venezuela this morning with the earthquakes. And I know this sounds really weird when we talk about climate change, but earthquakes are going to be an indicator of climate change. When you reduce the amount of ice on the Earth's crust, it means that you get more frequent earthquakes. So really sadly, this is potentially part of the whole thing. We've got a record-breaking heat wave now in the UK.
Hottest day in the UK ever yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then across the whole of France as well, and most of mainland Europe. And we've also got, we haven't got a new Prime Minister yet, but we've got a new Prime Minister in waiting, plus a load of sort of political uncertainty worldwide. So tricky situation. We have been talking about solar for about 20 years in this country, maybe a little bit longer. So where are we today with solar? What is it? Are we still talking about the same things, or is the conversation moved on?
Well, interestingly, in 2016, the reason that I came up with the idea for this business is because it was a very strange train journey I was on. And I was sitting around on one of the tables on a train journey, just coming up from Kent into London, with two gentlemen. We got chatting that happened to be quite senior in energy companies, and they actually sort of put the fears in me, because they were talking about energy security and how, ironically, by 2026 there's going to be a lot more power cuts and we're not going to have enough energy for everybody as we're electrifying everything. And so that's where it started. And I think solar today is becoming more and more important, because that is now what they told me isn't as bad, because I think renewables have obviously come on a long way since
10
that.
years,
so it really, really has. But I think it's becoming more relevant because the companies that we're talking to, the large commercial companies that we're talking to, do have fears about energy security, cost of energy, with which everything that's happened over the last 5 years, people wouldn't have predicted, with wars and how that's affected energy prices. So having on-site energy on your building and giving that energy resilience, if you like, I think is becoming more important.
Right. And tell us a bit about lightweight solar, because I think there's always a lot of assumptions about it as a technology. Does it do the same as non-lightweight solar? Is it easy to fit? What are the things that make it different?
So when I started the business, I was actually driving over the Dartford crossing one day, and I saw all of the massive warehouses there and thought, why have they not got solar on them? And asked some questions and realized it was because of weight and structural issues. And that's when I realized, wow, there's a whole different market here with this lightweight solar technology. And at the beginning, in 2020, when I was raising investment, one of the challenges that I had was in 2008, when these technologies were starting to come into the market, they weren't very powerful and they didn't have the longevity either. And that perception was still there. So it was very difficult to people to understand that actually this this is a good way of making buildings more resilient. So I was struggling to get an investment at the beginning because they thought the lightweight solar or thin film solar, as often discussed, wasn't very powerful. But actually it is. It is just as powerful as conventional solar.
So it produces the same amount of power.
It does. It does. It produces the same amount of energy. You have to install it in quite different ways. It's not as standard as conventional solar in that way, and that makes it slightly more expensive. But it's still a lot less expensive than buying energy from the grid.
And what are the challenges about installing it? I guess all roofs aren't the same, are they?
And that's it. And that's where the Solivus expertise comes in. Because over the last few years, we've done everything in-house in terms of the R&D, how you fix this technology to the roof. And there are so many different roof types. And with lightweight solar, as you can see here, we've got a sample there. You are literally just sent this from the manufacturers. And there are different ways of attaching it to the roof. And so we know the formulas for doing that for all the different roof types. So it might be a membrane roof, might be, a corrugated roof, like all the different manufacturers and whatnot all have different rules and regulations with all their warranties. So we figured all of that out, and crucially the time and therefore the cost, and therefore ultimately to the customer the kilowatt hour price for every single roof type and how we apply it.
Yeah, and James, who's the finance director, did offer to come and lift up one of these panels for us later. So I don't know whether he's going to do that now or not. but basically, I think we have one of the panels there, and there we go. He's gonna enter in. But I think the weight of a normal panel.
He was volunteering everybody else for this job, which is where that would be.
So to do that with a normal size panel, that would be normally kind of 2 panels, basically, of a normal size. And I remember we put some solar on a local school, and we had to have 2-3 people per panel just bang into these areas of high hail. So the insurance on these things are now going through the roof, because the reinsurers have now discovered that if they aren't glass proof, then these hailstorms just wipe them out as they go through. So it is really interesting. I think the technology has been quite static for a long time, and I think actually these innovations and changes become so important.
It's interesting you say that, because, sorry, this is a bit of an aside as well. It has crossed my mind, as solar farms that have been in place for sort of 10 or 15 years, starting to, for the warranties that were then coming to the end of their life. Yeah. If there's, as it's all set up and all of the foundations are there, whether you could just glue these on top.
Quite possibly. Maybe you should come and do that. I've got a couple of very old panels with mold on them, so maybe you can come and do that with mine. But I think it's interesting, because we're going to have resilient technologies, and actually it seems to me that this technology potentially is very resilient, particularly probably insurers quite like you, or not.
Well, we have a couple of meetings next week with global insurance companies to do a kind of analysis of our technology and the impact on fire risk and the risks to buildings. And what I found was that of large buildings, often they have a lot of high insurance with solar on the top because of the weight of it. It can cause the buildings to collapse. Yeah. And they're thinking by having much lighter weight on the roof, it could lower insurance premiums.
Which would be brilliant.
I thought that was interesting.
Potentially that could decrease your financing costs as well.
Yeah.
So great thing to be talking to customers about. And I mean, we are in a time when we went 30 years ago, I think we had 30 power stations in the UK, a massive centralised system. We must have over 2 million, I think, power generators now generating power, pushing power the other way down the lines. We've got, actually the French nuclear system is under stress this week. So French nuclear is down.
That was really interesting.
Yeah, it's down about 7%. Which affects all power prices in Europe, because the rivers are too hot to cool the nuclear power stations. So all technologies particularly centralized technologies, can become less resilient, particularly in this kind of extreme weather. So do you think this kind of decentralized approach could actually provide not more resilience generally in an energy market, and particularly for customers. And what do you see some of the challenges are that we're coming across, maybe with grids and things?
So certainly with the customers that we're dealing with that have large commercial roofs, they are starting to view their roofs more and more as an asset. Once they start clicking onto this, they're realizing actually our roofs could be valuable to us in terms of generating low cost energy across the group. So when we're helping companies model their energy use, we're encouraging them to use as much energy as possible within the building, because that's the lowest cost energy. But they can actually also, through partners that we have, trade energy to themselves between building and building. But they want to use as much energy locally as they can, because that's the lowest cost. Airports is really interesting because that tends to have quite often a kind of a microgrid situation where they can spread the energy across different buildings in the airport. So it is starting to go more and more. How can we generate energy for ourselves on our factory? Factories are fascinating. There's a car manufacturer that we're talking to. Their energy use is absolutely huge, and the buildings are huge. So it's sort of extraordinary that they haven't got solar on already, but now they're realizing, wow, that is going to save us a fortune if we do this.
Yeah, and potentially stop their energy prices spiking as they go through.
Yeah, I mean, it's resilience all around.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting time. And do you see batteries becoming part of the solution as well?
We are getting asked more and more about batteries. So we've done a couple of projects for Balfour Beatty where we have put batteries in there, and some of those are off-grid solutions. So you literally the grid doesn't even come into it, where you've got solar batteries, and then you tend to have a backup plan in the UK. So you have a backup diesel generator, and one project we actually had a backup hydrogen fuel cell. But it's interesting looking at the data. They are rarely used, those backup systems. So even in the UK, you can become very, very resilient, generating energy at a local level.
And that's an interesting example there. I mean, maybe we can talk about a couple of your customers and what examples they are, because that is a temporary supply sometimes on these construction sites where you generate power and then you plug in, so they don't have to put a massive temporary diesel genset. Is that something where this technology works really well?
Yeah, I mean the cost of using diesel generators on construction sites is huge. They're very noisy, very polluting, not very nice for the workers. So all round, it's better to have batteries. And it just we've calculated that it saves them a huge amount of money. But you'll be surprised, some of these construction sites, these compounds are there for a decade. So it's producing energy for quite a long time.
Yeah,
if you're building a motorway or a train line or something like that, it's there for a long time.
Yeah. And have you been approached? I was at a conference last week, an agricultural regenerative conference. Have you been approached by the agricultural sector?
No, that is an area where we need to do some comms. Yes. We haven't started to approach that, but I do know that dairy farms, for example, use a huge amount of energy, and they've got obviously lovely big barns that we could be using, and they're probably buildings that would struggle to put conventional solar because of weight limitations. So we should do some communication to the farming industry.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think they're beginning to think about their long-term resilience as well. They see the weather situations being quite a challenge for their soils, but also their energy use.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody, a Cornish farmer who's a Nuffield research associate as well. So he's a farmer and a researcher. I think it's fascinating because they're so practical farmers. They really have to think about what they're doing. But they're thinking actually they can do 2 gig of flex as well from the farming sector, so that you could actually not only produce your own power but flex into the marketplace. And that would be, I think agriculture, we always slightly forget about agriculture. We sort of think about the other big areas, but really interesting sector.
Yeah.
And maybe Solivus that's the next place for you guys to go. Tell us a bit about some of the customers. Have you got? I mean, you've got some of them obviously up behind us, but
Yeah.
what do they love about the Solivus technology?
Well, we always, I think, why lightweight solar now? It's because people have woken up to solar. They're analysing their buildings, and a lot of buildings have been turned down because you get to a certain stage in a project, and then because of structural issues, it's not possible. And so those buildings are sort of coming back into the conversation now, and they're getting solutions for them. And they tend to be the larger buildings. So here we've got Farnborough Airport with our installation on the roofs there. They had structural issues, and also they were worried about the aesthetics of those buildings as well. So they're thrilled that they can fit 2 megawatts on these buildings that before they couldn't do anything with. So it's like, why wouldn't you? In fact, this is Northampton Saints, where they said, why wouldn't you turn your roof into an asset? It's just sitting there doing nothing, and it's actually a great asset for you.
And from your point of view, are you seeing today?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've talked about the uncertainty we see in the world. We've got London Climate Week this week with record temperatures.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more people coming to you looking for this technology?
It's interesting because the BBC contacted us just after the Iran war, like 2 days later after the Iran war. I said, has it had an impact on your? And it was only sort of 2 or 3 days in, and it hadn't at that point, but it didn't take long. Within 2 or 3 weeks, suddenly we were just getting so much interest through the website, and all of the deals that we're doing, that they're long deals. That's because they tend to be big buildings. They're all suddenly speeding up. People are wanting to do more. So yeah, it's definitely had an impact on our demand for sure.
And
which is like, feels bad to say that because it's a war, but it has weirdly helped us.
Yes, I mean, and I think people recognise that our world is potentially a bit unstable, and maybe we need to do something about it on our own turf. We potentially have a new Prime Minister coming in September. Well, we will have one. We just don't know. We can't be certain who it is, but we're pretty sure it's going to be.
Yeah.
What would your big ask be of them when they arrive?
Well, I have heard Andy Burnham speak at some of these events quite a few times, and he is, what I've heard him talk about before is being very pro renewables and pro business, and that's what he's done across Manchester and been quite successful at it. So I'm sort of hoping, if he is our new Prime Minister, that he continues that across the country, because it's worked well in Manchester.
Yeah. I mean, he did take Manchester on a different journey.
I know it's very different, like running a country to running a city to running a country. But if he can succeed, I mean, I know there's a whole load of other agendas, but selfishly, there's that area. If he does that, it'd be good.
Yeah. And is there anything particularly this sector needs, do you think, to help them on their way, or
what is sector?
What are your biggest challenges at the moment?
I think it would be. I mean, politically, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Politically, when Trump got in this second time, our demand did drop off for a little while because he was, drill baby drill. That was a flipping nightmare for us. Everything, we did get affected by that messaging, and it's just crazy, isn't it, that one person saying that can just have such a huge impact across the world to this sector. But a year in, and and then he's also then strangely, this Iran thing, done the opposite. So the London Partners office did take us to the US about 6 weeks ago to try and promote trade, and us setting up an office in the US. And when I was going over there, I thought, this is crazy. Why are they taking us to the US, given the rhetoric that's coming out there? But I was absolutely amazed. They, I think, weirdly, are more pro-renewables than the UK, because they are looking beyond Trump, and they are looking at energy resilience and cost, and they know it's coming, and they're planning for the transition. I think perhaps thinking bigger, and although they're behind us at the moment, I don't think it's going to take long to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing growth of renewables in the US massively.
I think it is. Yeah, they're just getting on with it, knowing it's going to come afterwards. Yeah.
And on a very practical level, I mean, one of the things I hear when I talk to a lot of sort of maybe larger scale solar developers is there are big challenges with the grid. Are you finding that, or do you manage to bypass that because you deal directly with customers?
A lot of our customers tend to be in big industrial estates or in areas, it's a stadium, it's an airport, it's a logistic, it's a factory where they already have really high energy demand already. We have had it a couple of times where we've had to make the solar array smaller, which is frustrating because of grid capacity. So I think actually one area where that would be helpful is, and I think we asked you about, with your expertise, about what to do. We did have one big factory and we were having to scale it back. And we wanted a way of just saying, well, listen, let's just, I can never remember what the word is, Rob, where you don't let any spill into the grid. If they would allow people to put that on the roofs at large amounts of solar, which can be used in the building, regardless of what's going on in the grid, and allow it to have the technology put on so it doesn't spill back into the grid at all, I think that would be a huge help.
Okay, well, I'm sure we can ask the grid operators that could be our next job. And if you look in sort of 5 years' time, I mean, what does success look like for Solivus? I mean, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the US? Do you want to be?
So obviously I'm quite ambitious and punchy with this. So where we are going to be in 5 years' time is that we will be dealing with large multi-site clients that will have solar on a large number of roofs. They'll have interconnectivity of trading going on between the buildings. We will have financed that solar as well. So Solivus will be benefiting from installing the solar. We will own SPVs that own the solar, so we'll be making money not only on the installation but on the SPVs, and our customers indeed will also be supporting with that finance of the solar as well, because a lot of them are very big companies. They've got ESG bonds and finance bonds, so together we'll be helping them grow their money and making their buildings more resilient, save them money for, making the money for the tenants in those buildings. So it's large multi-site roofs across certainly the UK and the US.
Okay.
Last question.
Yeah, no, I was just about to open it up to questions. So yes.
On that gentleman on the revenue generating side, where you will make some revenue, is there an opportunity, or is this part of what you do or could do around making some money in return from the generational side?
So, this way, the plans we've got is actually to make money from financing the hardware. So it's not necessarily a kilowatt hour price, which tends to happen with finance as it is now, but we intend to make money from just installing the hardware rather than tying it to the actual kilowatt hours. But one thing that you're saying, which is absolutely right. So Farnborough Airport, for example, they're going to put another 2 megawatts in, which will be traded from 1 meter into the terminal through energy trading. And we have a partnership to do that, so the airport will be able to save money, but that will be beneficial to us, the fact that it can be generated and traded to another part of the group. There's another customer where they own large buildings in the countryside, but they also own skyscrapers in London, and we'll be helping them trade from one to another, and we'll get a tiny breadcrumb of the generation, but if you do that lots and lots of times, then ends up.
Also comes back to the storage part of the question.
Yeah.
Because you effectively spoke in the microgrid between buildings and properties.
Yeah.
And then the generational side might help.
Yes. Yeah.
I was wondering if that's part of
Yeah. That on the trading front, it is. Yeah, because then we're not direct. We don't want to directly sell energy ourselves, but that's somebody else doing that energy generation trading for us, and we're just getting an admin breadcrumb that will add up.
So I mean, I was going to open the floor to any other questions at this point, or I can carry on asking questions. So rather me just doing it on my own. Are there anybody else to sort of? Hi, yes, I'll take you first and then come to you.
On the patent side.
On the patents, yeah.
System, how strong is that in your company?
So we have two different. One is IP and know-how, which is how we're fixing it to the roofs, and the financial formulas behind that, which is going to allow us to do this financing the solar bit. And it's all the knowledge we have behind that, which is going to allow us to make money out of the financing. But then something that's happened in the last year is quite exciting. We do have a patent that's been filed globally for a new commercial roof. Data centers are becoming quite an interesting space. So we're getting a lot of inquiries about energizing data centers. And we have created a patent which has solar built into the roof, and there's special containerized areas within that roof where all of the inverters and the electronics are, which massively reduces fire risk. If there was a fire caused by the solar, you can use non-combustible gas to put it out immediately, which is really important for data centers. So we have quite a strong patent on that. It's really exciting, and we're starting to talk to roofing manufacturers about and then developing that. But that is a strong and valuable patent. And I think for data centers in particular, that's going to become more valuable. Yeah, it is called the Solivus wave. It is wavy, but it's quite big. It generates 60% more energy on the roof than if the roof was flat. It's a really cool patent. Exactly, because it tracks the angle of the sun. Exactly. Yeah, I'm quite excited about that one. We won't be making roofs, by the way. We'll just be licensing it to other people to make the roofs and providing the solar.
The other question really is about the DIY area now.
Are you going to have one of those, Joe?
I'm just sighing because we get contacted so much by.
Is it art?
Can I put it on my shed? Can I put it on my canal boat? Can you just sell me a few panels so I can just plug it in? And it's just like, at one point I thought, we've got so much demand for this, let's go for it. But very quickly realised that it was so difficult, because even someone's garden shed, you've got to know, what is it made of? How is it going to stick to that roof, or whatever it is? And it's almost just as much hassle as doing a really big building. So like this isn't going to work financially.
I wasn't asked that when I bought anyone to put on my roof.
Yeah.
Is that your responsibility?
Well, that's where we were going through the analysis of, if people start buying this and just stick it on, who's responsible? And I just started getting the heebie-jeebies a bit, so we decided not to do it.
I think I've seen the work on, so there's a lot of work going on the safety side of obviously plug-in solar at the moment. Because the concept is you go down to Argos and go and buy something.
Yeah, and we started like, should we start doing the balcony solar? But then I thought, what if it blows off someone's balcony and like kills someone on the road below? Like, who's responsible for that? Yes. And we've sold them the kit.
Well, I don't think it's you. Unless you have particular balcony sort of stapling things that have failed. I think if you just sell them the solar panel, I think, but you're right. I think there's a lot. I know the government's going through a lot of sort of safety analysis at the moment,
right? Okay.
To figure out, because they really want to get this launched as a.
But I think it would be great if people can put solar panels in the balcony and they're plugging all the gadgets in, charging everything, and it's all for free. I mean, great.
Yeah. Also, you can take it with you, so it means that rental property can actually do it.
Okay.
Because most renters obviously can't install solar, so it's a really important part. So you're not thinking of going back into that then?
Only if somebody got me comfortable with the risk.
Okay. Well, maybe you let Argos do it first, and then you can think about it second.
Environmentally and grid-wise, it's very handy, isn't it? little bits being pushed in.
And used in everybody's homes. Yeah. Yes.
Or
Pressure off
the
the
grid
grid.
is quite nervous of that as well. So I know that the central system is going to be owned by the grid for the registration of that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So that they know where it all is.
Yeah.
I always thought that about EV chargers, because on my road where we live, I was probably one of the first people to get an EV car, and you know what it's like. Everyone starts, and suddenly, like, loads of people on the road had EV cars, and the